Have you ever thought to yourself, you know what, I wish there was something gaudy I could do to my controller that may end up breaking it in the process? Then do I have a product for you, the eXtremeRate LED mod kit for Xbox One. Now this mod kit was sent to me by eXtremeRate, but this is not a sponsored review by any means. I don't even have an affiliate link to share, so all of my views and all of my opinions are completely unbiased. I was contacted with an opportunity to receive this LED mod kit for the controller. Now I have to say the end result is pretty cool, but there were some bumps along the way and some things that didn't quite work the way I expected. Let's get into the review. I'll go over how to take the controller apart, how to install the mod, and reconstruction of the controller in this video. Make sure to give it a like if you end up enjoying and subscribe to stay up to date on everything that I publish. But with that said, let's get started. This kit from eXtremeRate comes with the LED mod and all the tools you need for the job. Well, besides something very strange that I'll get into later. The first step in taking your controller apart is removing the sides. Use the orange pry tool to do so. Then you'll need to remove the 5 screws, including the one behind the battery sticker, to take off the controller shell. Keep in mind that once you puncture the battery sticker on the controller, your warranty is then void because they know that you've been tampering with it. Once all 5 screws are removed, you can take the shell off the controller to reveal the insides. It's kind of cool to see the inside of the controller if you haven't before. There's a lot of stuff going on here, way more than most people would think. The next step is to secure the rumble motors, one on each side of the controller, and you want to do this just with some Scotch tape. The reason being is because these aren't actually secure into the controller, and so they will fall out if you don't tape them down when you're messing around with it. And after that, we're going to remove the thumbsticks, the D-pad, and the bumper buttons. It might take you a minute to get all these things off, but just know that they will come off without much force. Then we're going to turn the controller around and unplug the 2 boards from each other, and then remove the 2 screws that secures the backboard. Next, there will be 6 screws holding in the board that has the buttons on it. There's 3 towards the center and 1 on each side. And once you get all those screws out, you'll be able to lift that board right out, exposing all of the buttons. So we'll be removing all of the buttons, the X, Y, B, and A, as well as the 2 menu buttons. We want to leave the Xbox button at the top because there's no replacement for that. Once you have those removed, you want to find the corresponding button with the ones that are provided and put them in their place. Once those are secure, put the rubber conductive adhesive back in place. Then we'll move on to the LED mod itself. This is basically as thick as a piece of paper, and it's a sticker-like surface on the back, so you'll peel this off eventually. But the first thing we'll be doing is plugging the power flex cable into the flex socket that's shown on the screen here. It can be a little tricky to get in, but once you do, you want to push down the clamp so it remains in place and bend it underneath just like I did here. And once that's done, you want to remove the backing from this piece and then stick it and align it to the corresponding buttonholes and make sure everything matches up perfectly. Now here's the weirdest thing about this install. They actually call for you to fold a piece of paper, which will help you in the next step. Turning the board over, we're going to plug the power flex cable into the back where these battery tongues are sticking out. Once you have those pushed in, which can take some work, it took me a long time to actually get those to sit in properly, they want you to take your folded piece of paper and just kind of wedge it in there, making it a little bit more secure. Why something wasn't actually given to us to help us with this, a proper piece of material that would help us wedge that in there and make sure it's secure, I have no idea, but on the directions they actually mention folding a piece of paper and shoving it right in there, so you will have a piece of paper in your controller forever if you do this. And the next step is to put the first board back onto the controller. So we're going to install those 6 screws that we took out before, make sure everything's secure, and while you're at it, make sure all the buttons are pushing properly as well. Now this next part is pretty tricky. It might be one of the harder things that I had to do. You actually have to stick the other portion to the backboard. You want to try and line it up as best as possible with the holes and with the button markings on that backboard, but it's a bit tricky to get the first time around. Basically, you just want to put the controller back together the way that you took it apart. You're going to put the last 2 screws in to secure the backboard, but before you do that, you want to make sure that you put the 3.5mm jack in place. And then from there, you want to reinstall the bumpers and then resecure the D-pad. The next step is to install the lights that will go around the thumbsticks. You want to wrap the cables around the thumbstick hole so that it doesn't get caught when you're actually moving the thumbsticks around. And then you want to stick it down right in the middle so that the lights will show through. You want to do this for both the left and right thumbstick, trying to push the wires as far back as possible so that you don't get caught up when you're actually moving around playing a game. You can always go back and readjust the wires. You just want to make sure that when you're moving the thumbsticks, you're not hearing a lot of friction or you're not catching on it, making it difficult to use. And once you have that, it's time to reinstall the shell. You put on the back shell first, make sure the battery tongs come through properly and fit in their slots, and then you put on the front shell and install the 5 screws that you took out in the very beginning. And last but not least, you re-snap on the sides and your controller is whole again. Quickly place some batteries in the back, turn it on, and make sure the thing works. The directions tell you to do it halfway through, but I skipped that in the video. I definitely did it just to make sure it was working, because you hate to finish the controller just for the thing not to work. So make sure it's working halfway through, and then complete the reconstruction. The way that it works is you hold down the menu button for 5 seconds, which will activate the lights. You can press the window and menu button at the very same time, and that will actually cycle through the different options that the controller has. But that's it for the install. If it looked like a lot, it definitely was. Overall, this took a lot longer and was much more complex than I thought it would be. The sped up video and the edited version definitely made it seem easier than what it was. So if you're looking for something super simple to add these LED lights, this might not be for you. This kit was supposed to produce red, green, blue, purple, cayenne, yellow, and pink, but the only colors mine did are red, green, and yellow. Blue tries to show up, but it's pretty non-existent, and I'm not really sure why this is or what would have happened, except for the kit just being plain old defective. It also has a blinking option or a gradient option, and I think the gradient option is my favorite, or just keeping it on a solid color like green or yellow. Those show up pretty well. But gradient's pretty cool because it changes back and forth really smoothly, and you can actually see a little bit of the purple, pink, and cayenne in the gradient, so I'm not really sure why it didn't show up for me. The colors that do work though are very bright and pretty nice to look at when you're gaming in the dark. It's not something that's going to make you a better player obviously, but it's a pretty neat thing to mess around with and show off to your friends. And it would make a pretty awesome present in my opinion for a kid. The buttons and thumbsticks seem to work just as well as the originals, and I haven't really noticed any problems so far with them sticking or not working properly. A word of warning though, while this is active, your batteries will drain faster. Plugging in a controller while playing might be the way to go. Opening up your controller voids the warranty if you have one, and there's always a risk of something going wrong if you're not experienced or careful. Like I said, this was harder than I expected, and it took much longer than I thought it would. After all is said and done though, I like the LED mod and I enjoyed the challenge, but I can see where it may not be for everyone. And I definitely would have liked for the colors that actually came with it to show up. If I paid for this product, I definitely would be contacting them to try and get a refund or some money back, because basically it just doesn't work. And unfortunately, you don't really find out if it's working until you're all the way in your controller and you've taken it all apart. So there's no way to actually test this out beforehand, just to make sure you have a working product before you possibly destroy your controller. If you enjoyed the video, definitely give it a like and subscribe to stay up to date on everything that I publish. I've done some other reviews on my channel, so feel free to check those out. And if you have a product that you want to send to me to review, I have an email on my YouTube page. Also feel free to reach out to me or follow me on Twitter at YTBoris15. But with all that being said, I hope you guys have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later.